And welcome back to halftime. Drew Barry and Matty T holding down the fort in the fort on this feel-free, fun Friday edition of halftime. Now, so happy and glad to be joined by my friend Brett Norsworthy from Sports56 from Sports Time with Gabe and Stats on Sports56 from 3 to 6 Monday through Friday in the pre and post game. Ole Miss Rebels Network. Brett, thank you so much for joining us. I know it's a little short notice. I texted you yesterday, but I appreciate you taking the time before your show today because there's so much interesting things going on around college football. And this being list season, Mount Rushmore season, whatever season you want to call it, it just fits perfect into this time of year. I could not be more thankful for the USC UCLA news. If I tried.
Yeah, it was a manna from heaven for all of us. But I never am subscribing. And Drew, thank you so much. It's an honor. It's a real pleasure to be on with you. You know how much I value you and how proud I am of you. And I love that area, Northwest Arkansas and Fort Smith and in the Arkansas River Valley. And I think they are lucky to have you. So thank you so much for having me. But I've never subscribed to, air quotes here, slow time of year. I've always told you that I think anybody that walks in and goes, man, what are we talking about today? They're either dumb or they're lazy. But we did get a great gift with USC and UCLA news. And Drew, you also know that I've said forever that conference realignment, there's no start-finish line to it. It's always emerging. It's an evolutionary process, and in some cases, revolutionary process. It's like the Earth. We're circling the sun constantly. Every birthday, you've made it around the sun one more time, and that's what we're doing in college football, and we're at a real kick point for college football, but I think an exciting one. I've heard so many people about it being ruined and it's over as we know it. I don't look at it at all like that, Drew, and not just because I am a certified SEC bootlicker, and I am, but I look at it because I think in the end, especially with expansion of the playoffs, that this will make college football a truly 12-weekend event instead of having some of those cupcakes put in there and some of those teams that you really don't know either the nickname or where they're from, and some of them that have state by them, and they're not a state, they're really a city. And some of them aren't even a city. And I hope scheduling will become more competitive, and we kind of end the FCS stuff at the FBS level. You know what I want? I want a 9-game SEC schedule. And this is if we're just at 16, and we're not going to be. It's going to go to 20 or 24. I want a 9-game SEC schedule. Then I want one game against somebody from the SEC that's not a designated league game. That gives you 10. And then in those other 2 games, you play a FBS power team, a known team. And then that 12th game, you play somebody, especially at $5 gasoline, in the neighborhood. You play, the Razorbacks play Tulsa. The Razorbacks play Arkansas State. Ole Miss play Memphis. Ole Miss play Southern Miss. Mississippi State plays Southern Miss. Alabama play Troy. Alabama play UAB. Same for Auburn. UT plays Memphis. Tennessee plays Middle Tennessee. And let's make those season ticket packages really have the value that those checks that are hard earned from a lot of people, especially right now in this economy that people are cutting. Let's give them plenty of value in those season ticket packages.
I'm 100% with you, Brett. I couldn't have said it better myself, and I actually tried to. That's the point I tried to get across in hour number 1 about conference realignment, that we're not just going to have to have great college football in week 1 and 2 and then have that middle lull and the matchups against teams you don't really care about, cupcake week. And we had a guy text in the show and says the only thing about killing the blowout games is that those games help fund the FCS and some other programs. And to that I say, do you really care about those programs? I mean, if that's what they're really relying on their budget, well, they probably need to do a little bit better job of playing competitive football, building a better program. Because as a consumer of college football, I want the best slate of games. I want to be able to turn on my television at 11 o'clock and have marquee matchup from 11 o'clock in the morning to 11 o'clock at night. And I think that this conference realignment, that's what gets us there. And with the SEC, you talked about, you think it could go as high as 24. Who are some of those teams on the list. And the editor of Swim, which I had never heard of until yesterday. Who knew Swim was a thing? We talked about 3 schools from the ACC. Do you think that there's any truth in that report? And the thing that trips a lot of people up was the negotiation part. I didn't know Greg Sankey and the SEC negotiated. I thought they invited or they told.
They don't very often. It's often in a very subtle, very Brooks Brothers suit style. Like out of The Godfather, you're going to sign that or your brains are going to end up on it. That's almost implied. They don't have to say that because, look, everybody out there, except for there's a couple, but most of these teams that are being bandied about, they would jump at an opportunity to join the SEC. I know it hurt a lot of Oklahoma State people last summer that they weren't invited and they had a lot of invective directed toward OU fans. They would have taken the same deal. So would have the Kansas Jayhawks. So would have Kansas State. Now, those names mentioned by Swim, who knew on Monday morning we would quote him. And I said, Drew, yesterday, I said to Gabe on our show, and let's don't go out there with the Twitter horde and the talk radio echo chamber and kill that guy. He's either going to be right or wrong. If he's right, okay, you nailed one of the bigger sports stories of the summer, maybe the year. And if you're wrong, I don't think we got to take him over there to Judge Parker's gallows in Fort Smith and hang him. I mean, let's don't be so zero-sum about all this. In the summer of 2010, Chip Brown at Orange Bloods or the Texas website, I think that's the name of it, he foretold every bit of this. He thought it was all going to happen in 2010. Nothing happened. And now everything he predicted that summer has ended up happening. So was he right or was he wrong? Okay, maybe he didn't get it in the next 90-day increment, but he got it right. So if Swim's right and those teams come in, none of those names surprise me. I almost want to clear my throat before I say this. North Carolina and Virginia, if they come in, and for the ones that matter, and I know people in the administration at the university, in the upper recesses of Old Main and Bull Walker and the administration building, academics, it matters. To most of us, that really doesn't, because in the SEC, our footprint is largely frat and football, and we know that, and I'm comfortable with that. That doesn't bother me at all. And on the academic front, you can get all out of it that you put in it. You put very little in it, you'll get very little back. You put a lot in it, I know plenty that did, and plenty that got a lot back from it. But Virginia and North Carolina would really fit. That would help mollify, I think, quiet some of the critics. Not totally, but some of them. And those places are state schools. And you're also bringing in 2 of the great state school academically in the country. With Texas, one could argue with Texas, Florida, if the SEC got UVA and Virginia, that may be the collection of best public schools in the country, Cal, Michigan notwithstanding. But it would be really good. Then on the football front, I think it's very exciting times. Totally selfishly, I look forward to going to a game maybe someday at Virginia. I'm afraid most of this is really going to take place after old Brett's at home and got his feet propped up and working at fireplace poker on most Saturday afternoons, making sure the 6-log Oval Office fire is going good and the grill's fired up on the back. I don't think any of it's going to happen, in even before the 24 season at the earliest. And we know OU and Texas coming in 25. But it's exciting. It's exciting for college football fans everywhere. And college football is a force for good, Drew. And I want people to not crack on it and defend it and love on it just a little more.
I'm with you, Brett. I think that this expansion, everything, it's good. Stop worried about the negativity and everything that may be lost, because I think that as a sport, it's going to gain so much more. And that's why I am, just like you, I'm excited for this. Now, here's something that really excited me. Yesterday, we had a mutual friend of ours, Pat Smith from JOX, on the show down in Birmingham, and he was telling us, and we wish we would have gotten to it a little bit sooner, because we only had about 2-3 minutes before the break when he told us this, that he would not be shocked if Notre Dame joined the SEC. He says it's something that definitely is worth keeping an eye on. Well, what are your thoughts about that one?
That's the one I want, Drew. And you know Pat well, and he is very plugged in Birmingham with the league offices there. He's also a real confidant of Paul Feinbaum. He was real instrumental in launching the Paul Feinbaum Network as we know it today. Whether you like him or not, he's been successful doing this talk radio bit. He has been, whether you like Paul or not. And Pat was right there at the beginning with him, and that's who I want. But Drew, I have found some of our Southern brethren, some of our SEC brethren, maybe even some of us, again, to use those words again, some of us SEC bootlickers, I've seen some people maybe reticent, a little reluctant, with a little trepidation of not going all in on the courtship of the wanting Notre Dame. Drew, I told you, I was junior high cotillion king for a reason. I wasn't scared to go over and ask the best-looking girl to dance with me at ninth grade junior high cotillion, and that's what Notre Dame is right now. She didn't say no then, and Notre Dame may not say no now. And I guarantee you, if you get a chance to get Notre Dame, you're getting that brand. I think some down here, below the Mason-Dixon line, we don't want to really appreciate them because they're up there and they're Yankees and that fight song and the Golden Dome and Touchdown Jesus. All that makes up part of the fabric of, if not the biggest college football brand ever, it's either first or second. It's either Alabama or it's Notre Dame as the biggest college football brand in history. And to have that come into the SEC, I think that would mark the biggest sports story ever, EBER, ever, Notre Dame to the SEC.
We're talking with Brett Norsworthy from Sports56 WHBQ and pre and post for Ole Miss Sports Network. Brett, I wish we had so much more time because there's so many more things that I want to get into.
I got till 3 o'clock.
I know you do, but unfortunately, I've still got one more break before 1 o'clock. So just real quick, because SEC Media Days is in about, we're 11 days away from that Monday. What are some storylines around Ole Miss that are going to be discussed and Lane Kiffin's going to be asked about?
First and foremost, quarterback. Second of all the meshing of new players. He almost went out and recruited an entire new team. Also, his coordinators. He'll have a new coordinator on the offensive side and the defensive side. He's really the only constant from year one to now into year three. That happens. We know that. It's why it's so important and so good for Coach Sam Pittman and the Razorbacks that he has had such consistency in his coordinators and his assistant coaching room. And that's a real hallmark for him. And Lane Kiffin, like everybody else around college football, admires and adores the job that Sam Pittman has done for the Razorbacks. But Lane's going to get those questions, and he's going to get, can you be the guy at Ole Miss that can do it? Instead of being the EKG machine, up, down, pretty good, real bad, a disaster, fire a coach, get a new guy, be pretty good. Can you be the guy that kind of can flatline it out there and win 8 or shall we say 9 consistently year over year?
Partners at BetOnline continue to be the #1 source for all your betting needs and sports info. Find all the latest odds, news, and sports developments, including this year's Wimbledon Finals, Major League Baseball, the latest fighting news, and even next season's early NFL futures. Head to the website or use your mobile device to sign up today to receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Just use our promo code BLEAV. That's BLEAV to get the bonus and get into the action. Bet online, where the game starts.